What is up, guys? Welcome back to POV Pottery. Today's project is going to be the water whistle, the bird whistle. I don't know. Is it a bird whistle if it doesn't look like a bird? Probably just a water whistle. These things have been around for hundreds of years. There are examples of them found that are from Holland and Peru. What is it though? It's similar to an ocarina, but there is water in the resonant chamber that modulates the tone of the whistle. Now, I bought this little guy in, I think it was in Portland, in some kind of like souvenir shop, and I looked at it and I thought, oh man, I could probably make one. This is what it sounds like if it has some water in it. So I started making them, and I just tried. I just tried with my knowledge of ocarinas, and I started building them. And then I made one with a very long tube, and I don't know how it happened exactly, but this one's kind of cool. So it sounds kind of like a slide whistle. They're super fun to make. It's always an adventure. I'd love for you guys to try it. Come along with me. Let's make some water whistles. Let's get started. Do what you can, you use what you got. The first thing I did was I rolled out a slab of clay, and you can see how thin it is. It is an 1/8 of an inch thick. And I will use a barbecue skewer since it's handy, and I'm gonna cut off the ends to make it rectangular. Then use your dowel or your barbecue skewer, and you're gonna roll it around the skewer. Before I do that, I'm gonna take a rib and I'm gonna compress this clay laterally. And that compression will help the structural integrity of the tube, mitigate some cracking as the clay is rolled around the dowel. Check this out. I'm gonna just roll this very slowly, nudging this clay up around this dowel so that it hugs the dowel, similar to a hot dog and a hot dog bun. But I'm not going to go all the way around. See that? What I find is I like to go almost all the way around, and then I use a straight edge. In this case, it'll be the skewer. And then I'm going to cut the excess clay off. Okay. So now I've got this. I'm going to get one side wet, and now I'll use my needle tool to score the face that I just cut and that I just wet. And of course I'm gonna score it nice and deep in a few different directions. And do you need to do it this way? Can you make a tube by just rolling a coil and sticking a barbecue skewer inside? Yeah, you can. The challenge, though, when you do something like that is maintaining the centrality of the skewer when you're sticking it inside of the coil. That's really hard. You know, it's hard to keep it right in the middle. I've scored the edges, and now I'm going to really try and pinch those scored edges together right around this dowel. And the great thing about this dowel and the barbecue skewer and the lollipop stick is all of those materials are porous, and clay does not stick as much to porous surfaces. I rolled out this slab on a porous canvas board. Now, you might not have a porous canvas board. You can use a pillowcase or a t-shirt, or even a piece of wood that doesn't have a varnished surface on it will work fine to make a slab on. So there we have it. I rolled it very, very gently on this canvas just so that I get a nice tube. And I'm going to pull this out, and I want to let this dry. It's about soft leather hard to leather hard. Okay, so this is a tube that I made yesterday, and it's a nice soft leather hard or leather hard. And we're going to start with the whistle mechanism on this. Before I do, I want to just show you kind of like where we're going. Okay, this is an outside picture. This is a cross section, and this is like looking down the mouthpiece area. If you were to look down, this blacked out area is solid. So this is kind of the direction that we're going to. So first, you've got your leather hard tube. You're going to insert your dowel back inside. And do you need one this long? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely not. This is probably long enough for two different mouthpieces. In fact, whenever I make these, I always make lots of tubes, and then I can make 5 or 6 water whistles all at once. You're going to take your knife or your wire knife, and you want the first cut you're going to cut is straight down until you hit that wood. Okay, so I did it. If I hold it sideways, and if my camera, there we go. That's what you want to do. And then the next cut, just like in the picture, it's going to be about a 1/4 inch from that. We're going to cut at a 45-degree angle, and we're going to cut this kind of smiley faced shaped wedge. Let me focus the camera right where I'm holding it, right there. We're going to cut that out. And can you see that little piece of wood in there? That's what you're looking for. From the side, it looks like that. And that is this image here. Okay, so I've cut that out, and I've basically effectively I've made a blade. This is the 45-degree angle blade. Now I'm gonna remove this, and you can see the inside of the window here. There's a few crumbs, so let's clean that out. You want the window to be about the size of a, what is this size? A grain of rice or so, like a grain of basmati rice. It's not, it ain't big. Don't make, see that black hole, that D-shaped black hole? You don't want that too big, okay? It's always easier to make it bigger than to make it smaller. But anyways, now what we need to do is we need to make the drop. So right now, if I blew into this, nothing. If I put my finger on it, nothing. So what you need to do is take some soft clay, and you're gonna make like a little rice grain. Okay, this is some soft clay, and I'm gonna insert it right into the mouthpiece here. Okay, zoop. Then I'll take my my dowel, and I'm gonna put it all the way until you inside, all the way until you can see it. There it is. Do you see that? There it is. Yeah, cool. Until it's totally flush with this vertical cut. There we go. Sorry about the focusing. There we go. Until it's flush with the vertical cut. Then I'm gonna take a secondary dowel. Sorry about the focusing, folks. And I'm gonna push that little rice grain, and I'm gonna squash it against the other dowel. So now I have effectively plugged up the entire mouthpiece of the whistle mechanism. Okay, it's totally clogged up with that plug. And if you were to cut this in half along its vertical axis, it would kind of look like this, but this rectangle here, it would go all the way up, right? I just put a plug in, and I squished it from one side with the one dowel, and I squished it from the other side with the other dowel. Now I've got to make this little windway. and then I'll have this 90-degree angle drop, so I have the sound, as you know from previous videos. Okay, so all you have to do to make that windway is get your needle tool, and you're gonna insert it at 12 o'clock. And you see where I'm doing this? Right there. And you should be able to see your needle tool come out and then touch the blade. Okay, now of course as I push out, some clay goes along with it, and it makes crumbs. So you've got to clean those crumbs out if you want to have sound. Even the smallest crumb can inhibit your sound. And I'm looking down that windway to make sure it's nice and clear. It looks like it is lining up with the blade nicely. And it may or may not have sound. I will test it in a second. Before I do, let's talk about some of those criteria to have sound. One, the ceiling of the windway must be totally vertical and perfectly vertically aligned with the, let me use this, that's easier to see, with the drop. So here we go, the wind comes in here, drops down. And of course, you've got to have this horizontal alignment with your windway and your blade. So there's two alignments that are critical. First is the vertical alignment with the drop. The second is the horizontal alignment with the blade and the windway. If those things are aligned, and if this distance from the edge of the blade to the exit of the windway is the correct distance, you will have sound. Now, I usually don't get it on the first try, so forgive me if this doesn't make sound right away on the first try. I'm gonna try and make sure that I have cleaned out some crumbs. And the way to test this is to put your finger on the back, like this. So, here we go. So I don't have sound, but it does tell me something, right? You heard it. It sounds like, oh, I do have sound. It's a little breathy. It's a little breathy. So I'm gonna play with my, the blade distance is usually the issue. So I'm gonna try and draw that blade back a little bit and see if it's the right distance, right? So when I look at the commercially made ocarina and I compare it to, this is how I learned how to do it. I just looked at this thing and I figured out how to make it. It looks like it might need to be a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna do it a little bit bigger. And you've got to make tiny adjustments, folks. Just little tiny adjustments, because the scale of the window is so small. If your water whistle, or if your whistle makes sound now, it will make sound after it's fired, right? So I'm gonna plug up this and then I'll blow into it. Okay. So at different strengths of blowing, I do have some different sounds. So it's something that I can tweak and work on a little bit. This is really a process of trial and error and trying to get yourself to a place where you're happy with the sound. All right, guys. So I moved the camera. This is that little whistle that I made, and of course, off camera, as soon as I tried it again, I put my finger on it, and it's like pretty good, clean whistle sound. So you could stop here, right? You could put a little piece of clay on the bottom, then a little ring, fire it, and then you could wear it around your neck or whatever, and you can make some pretty loud whistles this way. And that could be a cool thing, you know, just have a bunch of whistles that you could maybe write something on there for your friends or whatever. But if you were gonna go to make a water whistle, there's just a couple more steps. And you guys are probably smart and figured this out already, right? You're gonna make some pinch pots. So here I go. I'm gonna roll, I don't know, about the size of an olive. These are just some of the scraps that I have from making the slab. Just fold them up. And actually, I think I want to make it a little bit smaller. I make 2 bowls about the same size. And just like my half sphere video on making a pinch pot, you're going to make a pinch pot. And just like before, you're thinking about wall thickness, and most importantly, you're thinking about floor thickness. As you pinch and rotate, you don't want your floor to be too thick. You want the walls and the floor to be even. There we go. Small half sphere pinch pot. Let's do that again with this piece. You can start to think about what do you want to make, what do you want your water whistle to look like, right? Do you want it to look like a bird? Bird's good for your first one. But you saw some of my students that in the intro, I had one student who made that pink octopus one, or the salmon sushi one, or the like blue and white helix DNA strand looking one. I mean, you can get so creative. I was really pleased with a lot of the water whistles that my students have made over the years. I mean, they're so much more creative than I am. I had a student who made one that would look like a hand. Really, really outrageous. So here I go. I've got 2 pinch pots that are about the same size. I'm going to get the lip of one pinch pot wet, and I'm going to score both of them, and we'll put them together. Oh, here's a nice tip. When you are scoring your pinch pots, flare out the lip of the pinch pot so it's a little bit open. So the edge of the pinch pot is not totally vertical. Because when it's totally vertical and you put them together, you can get a kind of snowman shape, if you know what I'm saying. You want them to be open, not this, or certainly not this. Otherwise, when you stick them together, it looks like a snowman, right? But if they go out, if they're flared out and you stick them together, then you can push the seam together and you can get a nice sphere, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. See how they're extending out a little bit like little bowls. I'm gonna stick them together, and I'm gonna pinch and knit the seam together, just pinching it all the way around. And now I have the start of the water whistle. Now, from this shape, obviously, you can paddle it, and you can change it, and you can turn it into whatever shape you want it to be, because there's air inside that is supporting that clay. So I'm rotating it, I'm paddling it, and now I've got a cone shape. Cone shape, it's like an ice cream cone shape. That might be a cool water whistle right there, right? If I had an ice cream cone water whistle. Of course, I could, if I put a little head on it, I can have a bird. Okay? But let me show you another picture to describe how the mechanics look. Check this out. Okay? The next step that we're going to do is we got to insert the whistle tube inside of the hollow pinch pot, right? And you also need a hole in the top of your pinch pot, right? So that the air can go somewhere. So that wind comes through here, it whistles, and then it burbles through this liquid, through this water, and then it gets released through the hole in the head. Okay, so that's basically, I figured out that all out just by looking at this one. See, there's a hole in the head right there. So, and look at the angle, right? It's about a 45-degree angle, okay? So if I was going to turn this in here, this ice cream cone into a water whistle, you just poke a hole into it, score it up. I'm gonna get this wet. I'm gonna score the sides of this. Because the whistle mechanism is leather hard, it's more dry than the pinch pots that I just put together. So I'm gonna make sure that this leather hard whistle is wet, and I'm gonna get this wet. I'm not gonna get my pinch pots wet, right? I want them to be about the same moisture level, and then they'll stick really well together, okay? So I don't need to make my pinch pots more wet, right? So then I would stick this inside at that 45-degree angle and then close it up. Of course, then I also need to have a hole in the top. Okay, now that's not a really fun shape, but I do want to show you a couple that I have been working on. I'm still working on this one. It's kind of like a pigeon with a crown on his head. I thought it would be cool to have like a gold chain around his neck, and then I was working on some sneakers. I think that'd be awesome. Like have like some Jordans, like this pigeon, like he's a New York pigeon, you know. He's like Biggie or something. I don't know. And then so that one I was making just because I made all these tubes, and then I made a little. Do you guys know this guy? You guys know that guy? Latiku. He's like this little turtle guy who is in Mario Kart. He floats around, and in Mario games, he floats around on this, cloud. Anyway, so I made a little Latiku, and look, there's a hole in the top of his head, too. So you can really do whatever you want with this water whistle, and it will work if you have some sound now, like when you close it up, it'll definitely work. So before you like worry about, oh, is this thing gonna work or not, as long as it worked when you plugged the your finger on it on the end of the whistle, it will work after it's fired. Okay, that is the litmus test. So like, and some of them will work better than others. Like this one. Let's see if this one works. Oh yeah, that was really good. I didn't even have to plug the hole in the head. So if it works before firing, it'll work after firing. So I think this one I might work on this a little bit more. This resonant chamber is also much larger than this one, and it's also a little longer on the stem, so that is making a difference, I think, for this one. I would not recommend putting too much water or trying to do the water before it's fired, because you might dissolve something. You could do it, but you do want to shake it out and dry it out right away so you don't dissolve anything. Okay, so this is basically how you can make a water whistle. The last thing, of course, is to put some colors on it and glaze it. You can do that however you like. I usually will use some slips and then put a clear glaze on it. And of course, when you are glazing, you do want to avoid getting glaze onto the blade or too close to the holes. Glaze can sometimes move, or often moves, and can close up holes. So you want to be super careful about that when you are glazing your piece. But as long as you're careful about that, you can have yourself a fun little water whistle like this. So I hope you had a fun time watching this. I have had a lot of fun making these videos. Sorry that I'm not making them as frequently as I would like. What else? Oh yeah, of course, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you if you have a picture of one of these that you made, that'd be sweet to put it in the comments. If you can do that on YouTube, I have no idea. Have a good day.
Peace.